What's the YouTube? Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to Mementos, but this time it is going to be Memento Dogmatika. Now I mentioned this in the previous profile of how the two could synergize well together, and at the end of the video I'll show you a brand new 2-card combo that utilizes both sides of the deck and how you can control to your max potential. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So diving headfirst into the profile, we are going to start off with, of course, the main Mac Daddy of the deck, and that is Combined Creation. Now, I only have one of these, and I probably would, at the moment, specifically in this version, only play the one copy. I feel that's all you need. Yes, you can summon a second copy during the next turn if you want to, but because you're ideally going to try and either control the board with your Dogmatikas or break it with your other access of the other cards in the deck, you should be able to do everything you need to through the one creation without bricking on it. Then, of course, we play the second most, or maybe the most important of the Mementos, and that is, of course, the Witch. This is part of the 1-card combo that I'll show you at the end of the video, but this one is the rotor of the deck. So on normal or special, you get to add a Memento monster from the deck to the hand except itself, and then it also has the ability to target one level 2 or lower in the graveyard, Memento in the graveyard, destroy one Memento monster you control, and if you do, you get to special on the targeted monster. So that's how you're going to get more going. But the idea is that she's going to search you out your Tatsu, and Tatsu's going to become a free summon, and then Tatsu can then use his effect to summon off. The next one is, of course, Darkblade. Now, I'm still waiting on my third copy to turn up, but you would max out on this, because this one, on normal or special, you can discard a Memento card to target a back row and destroy it. But mainly what you're going to want to do is, during the main phase, you get to destroy a Memento monster you control, and if you do, you special on one level 3 or lower Memento monster from the deck. So it's a way of being able to tribute off Darkblade in order to get you into something like your Mace, or maybe even the Goblin if you want to as well. Speaking of which, we then play 4 one-offs, so the 1 Mace. Now, the reason I'm only playing ones of these is for the pure fact that you wanted to keep the deck limit to 40. You only need to get the 5 different names into the graveyard, which you can do very easily to get out your boss monster. And then the one you're going to want to be searching during your opponent's turn is Mace. The only time it becomes a little bit tricky is when you're opening up some of these cards, but then that's when you need the field spell to help you special summon them from the hand or anything else you might need. Mace is probably the best monster to search because it is that snatch steal capability that during your opponent's main phase, if you control the Combined Creation, you gain a quick effect to discard this card to target a face-up monster your opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase. During your main phase, you get to destroy one Memento monster you control, and if you do, you add a Memento card from the deck to the hand, except itself. So obviously it can destroy itself, it just can't add itself, and the idea is that you search out the trap card that gives you the 5 negates off the back of your Combined Creation. We've then got the 1 Tatsu. Now, obviously, if you wanted to place it free, you could do, because it's not a bad thing to open this up, as long as you've got another Memento to get to the board. The reason I've only got it at 1 is because the idea is that this is the first card I want to search when I normal summon my Witch, and that's how my 1-card combo for the Mementos are going to go. Other than that, it does have a very kind of harsh restriction that if you do not control any face-up monsters other than Memento monsters, you get to special on this card from hand. Now, that's great. But because we're playing the hybrid to utilize cards from the extra deck as well as the Dogmatikas, you are going to control monsters that are not Mementos. And when you've got loads of these as level 5s floating around in your hand, it can get quite bricky. It does have the ability that during your main phase you can destroy a Memento monster you control, send any number of Mementos with different names from the deck to the graveyard whose total levels are equal to or less than the destroyed monster's original level. So that's where it can destroy itself, and that's when you can then flood the graveyard with the remaining level 1s that you might need, or of course you can send Mace plus a Darkblade, you can send a Witch plus a Goblin and a Mace if you haven't already got the Witch in the graveyard, and you're just able to kind of fill that up that way. The last one we're playing, as mainly so for a name, is the Horned Dragon. If you wanted to, you could cut this out for a second Mace. It really is up to you. We probably will cut this out when we get the Karibo, but that doesn't come out until like January, February next year. But that's just something to be aware of. Then for the rest of the Memento cards, we are playing Triple Bone Party. So Bone Party is destroy a Memento monster in your hand or face up on the field to take a Memento monster from your deck with a different name and either add it to the hand or special summon it in defense. During your main phase, you get to banish this card from the graveyard to target a Memento monster you control. If it attacks a defensive monster your opponent controls, inflict piercing battle damage. You can only use each effect once per turn. Now, the reason that is so good is because the secondary effect off of the back of the Combined Creation gives you the ability that if this is the only card you control or you control no other monsters, it can attack all of your opponent's monsters once each. It also cannot be normal summon to set, so you do have to be a little bit careful with that restriction as well. It's a little bit more difficult for them to banish it unless they've got DD Crow, because obviously it's not a light or a dark. And on top of that as well is if your opponent activates a card or effect, except during a damage step, you get to special summon back a memento monster from the hand or graveyard. So again, you'll see that more in the combo at the end. I've then got 2 of the field spell and 1 terraforming. Now it's only because I only own 2 of the field spell. I might play 3 of the field spell just because I don't want to activate something like terraforming to rush into Droll, because that Droll will hurt the Dogmatika package when I'm trying to search cast to interrupt my opponent. What the field spell gives you is if your memento monster battles, your opponent cannot activate any spells or traps until the end of the damage step. And then if a monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one of those monsters and special summon a memento monster with a lower level from your hand or graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn, and then once per turn during the end phase you get to target a memento spell or trap in the graveyard and set it. Now obviously that's great to recycle your Cranium Burst, which you play 1 of, but the best thing about this, and I was trying to figure out the best ways of destroying my own cards, and one of the cards that I could think of is something like a Dark Hole could be really good, because I could activate the field spell, normal summon a monster, activate the effect gets negated, activate Dark Hole, and then we're good to rock and roll. So it really is up to you. There's a bit of flexibility in the deck to kind of adapt it as you see fit, and I'll talk you through like the 10 cards you can adapt to what you want to do more so going forward. So for the Dogmatika engine, we are playing the 1 Ecclesia, followed up by the 1 Fleur-Delis and the 1 Maximus. Now you don't have to play Fleur if you don't want to. You can actually change this up. You could play Quem if you wanted to go down more of a branded route, but I wanted to keep this strictly Dogmatika-esque plays, which is why I've gone with 1, 1, and 1. Obviously, Fleur is a really good non-target negation during your opponent's turn that a lot of people, again, kind of forget of because it's not used as frequently as the rest. There are 2 different routes when you're playing Ecclesia this way, is you can either Ecclesia into Maximus, which is going to give you into a quite nice window lock, but then you can also go for a Fleur or a punishment as well. To get to these cards, we are playing triple Nadir Servant. Now again, if you want to play more Dogmatika focused, you can play stuff of Herald of the Art Light. You can start searching for the rituals if you want to, but I wanted to keep this as the Shadol package, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. The final Dogmatika card is, of course, Punishment. You can place it more if you want to, but because I want to utilize stuff like Shadol Schism during my opponent's turn, I am going to play 1 of this, because the idea is that I want to be able to set up the Schism in order to set up Shadol Window during my opponent's turn. Now, how does this work? I've explained this loads of times during my Dark Magician profiles, but I'll now explain it again so it's all in one place. The idea is that off the back of the Dear Servant, you send your El Shadol App Clone. El Shadol App Clone then has the effect to add you a Shadol card from the deck to the hand. On top of that, you then need to discard a card. So this can help get you your mementos to the graveyard. But if we're going to go on the assumption that you have no other cards in your hand, then you're going to be going down the Maximus route, because then what you need to do is send a construct in order to recycle back the Schism. So there's a lot of swings and roundabouts, but it ultimately comes down to your particular playstyle, what you have in your hand, and if you want to try and complete this combo with minimum involvement, or if you're like, okay, yeah, I don't mind it being a 2.5 card combo because I can discard a card. The extra is completely flexible, so you actually have space to play construct if you want to. And there could be the odd times where if you wanted to go a little bit more aggressive rather than defensive, you could actually summon out your El Shadol construct rather than your window. But the idea is that off of App Clone, you get into Schism one way or another, and then what you do is you set the Schism, and all you need is your App Clone as your Shadol monster in the graveyard, and then any dark monster. Now that can be another dark monster that's come off of the back of something like your construct. It can be a dark monster that's come off of the back through your memento plays, you name it, and then it gives you the ability to window lock your opponent and sit on the board with a 5k boss monster. Carrying on with the generic cards, so we do have triple Pot of Prosperity. This is probably the best spell card for the deck. Yes, you do use certain cards in your extra deck, but you can deck fin it or extra deck fin it if you want to. Another really kind of cool card that I saw someone play was Supply Squad. Because you destroy your own monsters, you could get the ability to get more draws. But I felt overall, if I wanted to make this deck as good as I could possibly make it, Prosperity is a no-brainer to me. Then, of course, for the hand traps, you've got triple Ash Blossom followed by triple Imperm. These can be any hand traps of your choosing, entirely up to you. I then went with Board Breakers of the form of Super Poly, just because this gives me a very good option of going first and going second, plus the extra deck is so flexible. We've then got 2 forbidden droplets because at the end of the day, what you can do is you can go into the battle phase with your big combined creation. And even though combined creation says if you control no other monsters, during the damage step, you can activate forbidden droplet and send your other monsters to the graveyard to weaken your opponent's monsters and then start attacking. You could also make this with Bone Party so that it can have the ability to do piercing battle damage. But if you don't have the ability to give this piercing battle damage and you've got like 3 monsters on the board and your opponent's got 5 monsters on the board, you can very easily attack with one monster, activate droplet, reduce it, and then combine creation can get rid of the remaining 3 while doing maximum damage as well. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, as I've already talked about, you've got your Yugioh cards, you've got your 1 App Cologne, you've got your 1 Construct, and you've got your 1 Winder. Now keep in mind, Construct is only in here if you're like, I want the combo to be a 2-card combo, not a 2.5-card combo, then you main deck the Construct. For your targets to come off the back of Punishment and of course Nadir's Servant, you do have the ability of Elder Entity Ints. You also have the ability of Garura for a nice little draw. Keep in mind that this can also come off the back of Maximus as well. And then of course you do have Tri-Brigade Arms, because Tri-Brigade Arms can send the Garura and it's just a 3500 boss monster, so you've got more of an attack target for the back of Nadir's Servant. Ferigi for a draw and a recycle of one of your cards if you want to. And then for the other cards are generic or as much as you want to put into it. You've got your Super Poly targets as well as the Garura. You also have Dracus the Pelia and Mud Dragon. Of course, you can add other Super Poly targets into it if you want to. That really does just come down to your playstyle, your preference, and your local environment. We've then got the 1 Link Spider. So this is just if you get Nibiru'd and you hold back your Nadir plays. If you get Nibiru'd, you can just go Nibiru into Link Spider and then you can start doing Dogmatika plays. And then it's up to you whether you play the aggressive Link 1 of Anima or the defensive Link 1 of Link Karibo. Like I said, the only times you're ever going to go into either one of those is if you open up the Goblin or you open up the Mace, or you get them to the board and you're like, I really need to get an extra deck monster to the board. I'm going to turn that into one of these so that I can then make my Dogmatika plays. So it's up to you. You play either or. In this particular version, because I've got enough control going first, we're going to go with the Relinquish Anima. You've then got your SP Little Knight. It's just a broken card. If you don't have access to this, I do have another engine that I'm going to show you in a minute as well, because another card that I also like playing is just Typhoon. It's just, ugh. Yeah, okay, it does skill drain your big boss monster, but you skill drain with this guy on board and then drop it away, who cares? And even your big boss monster can be negated. Like, it's only its activated effects, which you can't revive from the graveyard. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. I've got my trap card to negate my opponent's card's effects anyway. And then you do have the ability of a Selene into an access code. Because you have the ability of sending cards to your graveyard off of the back of Nadir's Servant or Maximus, you can actually get different attributes into the graveyard should you want to. Obviously, Ferigi is an Earth, you've got Dark and you've got Light, so you've got at least 3 different attributes to buff up your access code talker. So what is the alternative engine that I hear you cry? Well, very simply, what I used to like to play is I did used to like to play a Dragoon package. And the reason that this is so good in the deck is because off of the back of your Maximus would send 2 cards from your extra deck. So what I would usually do is send Predaplant Chimera Flesia and then 1 other card. What Chimera Flesia would do is during the next standby phase, it would let you add a fusion card from the deck to the hand. So I would add Red Eye Fusion. In doing so, yes, you are playing 2 additional bricks in the form of Dark Magician and Red Eyes, but what it gave you was a 1-card crackback that had the ability to pop twice and attack for pretty much game all on its own, and the only way that it could be stopped was with an Omni Negate or an Ash. And that being said, everything else that you've already played and controlled to, up to this point, should be enough. So if your opponent was like, okay, cool, well, I'm going to be defensive, and then I'm going to try and activate something during your turn, like a trap card or a Book of Eclipse, and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever, summon out Dragoon, do your thing. So it was a very nice kind of fallback option, but I fully understood that you were playing technically less so Red Eyes Fusion, but you would still be a brick, plus Dark Magician and Red Eyes. So you don't have to play this at all. It's just a really kind of cool engine that I used to like to play when I was using the Dogmatika package that I thought was a good little highlight. If you're like, I don't have access to SP Little Knight, I don't have access to Typhoon, what else could I possibly play? This is one of them. Plus it kind of gives me that feel of being able to play Dark Magician cards again. So that is it for the profile. I'm now going to show you the very easy 2-card combo and how you utilize Winder during your opponent's turn as well. So we'll be back. The very basic 2-card combo. Now, this combo can be done with a 2.5 card combo. It has more consistent routes. The only card that you can't get direct access to is Nadir's Servant, but for the Memento 1-card combo route, you have 2 ways of getting to it, through Darkblade and Witch, and all of these are 1-card routes of their own right. So we're going to start off with the Darkblade just to show you the furthest route of the combo through, but you can also start with the Witch instead. Because ideally what you're going to do here is you're just going to normal summon your Darkblade, you're going to use this effect to destroy itself, and then special summon a level 3 or lower from the deck, being the Witch. So you can kind of see how you can get to it one or 2 ways. You then use Witch's effect to let you add the Tatsu, and then you're going to special summon down the Tatsu because you only control Memento monsters. Use Tatsu's effect to tribute itself, or destroy itself to be correct, and send from the deck to the graveyard Memento monsters whose levels equal or are less than the level of the monster destroyed, and that is of course a level 5. So you're going to send the level 1, your Mace, the level 3 of a Witch, and a level 1 of your Goblin, leading up to a level 5. The reason we are sending a second Witch is because you want to have a Witch in the graveyard to be brought back during your opponent's turn, so you can search out Mace in order to snatch steal one of your opponent's monsters. At this point, you want to use the second effect of the Witch to destroy itself, targeting the Goblin in the graveyard to bring the Goblin back. In doing so, Goblin will then use its effect to destroy itself and send 2 more Mementos from the deck to the graveyard, being the Horned Dragon and of course the Combined Creation. At this point right here, you're then going to use the ability of Combined Creation to summon itself back by putting back 5 cards from the graveyard into the deck that are Memento monsters, and the ones you want to recycle are these here. You could very easily recycle Darkblade if you want to. You just need to make sure you keep Witch in the graveyard, as this is the one that can search on summon the Mace during your opponent's turn. So all 5 of these now go back into the deck, and now we start the other 1-card combo, being Nadir's Servant. So you're going to use Nadir's effect. Nadir is going to send Apkallone from the extra deck to the graveyard, and this will then allow you to add a Dogmatika monster of 2500 or less attack. If you can get an extra deck monster onto the board, then of course you would go for Ecclesia, and then Ecclesia would get you to Maximus anyway. You just end up with an additional monster on the board. In this example, because we want to keep it as a base minimum of the amount of cards required, we're going to go directly to Maximus. On resolution, you will now use Apkallone's effect in the graveyard to add a Shaddoll spell or trap from the deck to the handle, technically a Shaddoll card, and you're going to add the Shaddoll Schism. You are then forced to discard a card in order to resolve said effect, and you are going to get rid of the Schism. Keeping in mind that if you wanted to make this a 2.5 card combo, then you can discard any other card and you keep the Schism in the hand. What that would allow you to do is that would then allow you to send Garura, and you'd still need to send Construct anyway to make sure you've got a Shaddoll monster in the graveyard. So at this point here, we're then going to summon down Maximus by banishing the Apkallone from the graveyard. You will then use Maximus's effect to send 2 monsters from your extra deck to the graveyard. If you're going aggressive, of course, you can send Elder Entity Unts, but because we are going defensive and going first, we're going to send Garura for a nice draw, and we're also going to send Construct, as it will allow us to recycle the Schism that we just discarded back to our hand. So, in doing so, you'll then be able to go Chainlink 1 Garura to protect the draw, Chainlink 2 Construct to add the Schism back from the graveyard to the hand. So we're going to add that back to the hand. Garura is going to draw 1 random card. So technically, from our starting hand of 5, we still have a full hand of 5 already. Now all you're going to want to do here is set the Schism and then pass to your opponent. Now I know this doesn't look as dominating as you might first fear, but keep in mind, during your opponent's turn, you can either wait for them to activate a card effect, chain Schism, so that whatever that card effect is, if it leads to a special summon, they are completely locked out for the rest of the turn. Or, as soon as your opponent activates a monster effect, what that will give you the ability for, or any card effect to be fair, Combined Creation can bring back the Witch. Witch will then use her effect on summon in order for you to add from the deck to the hand the Mace. And because we control the Combined Creation, Mace is now active to snatch steal one of our opponent's monsters. But that is not it. You can also now activate, during the main phase, Shaddoll Schism's effect to banish a Shaddoll monster from the graveyard, and then a Dark monster, whether that be the Garura or whether that be the Blade, in order for you to summon out Winder. This will now, of course, Winder lock your opponent, and on top of that, if they have a Dark monster on the board, Schism will send it to the graveyard. So, after all of that from 2 cards, what you've ended up with is pretty much the ability to OTK the next turn, keeping in mind that Winder cannot attack directly, but because you've already locked your opponent down, you can just use Anger Witch plus your Winder and link into any Link 2, Hello, SB Little Knight. Then you've got 5k straight there, you've got 1500 there. Not to mention you can still use Maximus's effect again in order to send 2 more monsters from the extra deck, one of them being a Ferrojeet to draw and put one back. Considering you still have a full hand of 5, you can even save the mace to be used to normal summon. You can't steal during your turn, it can only be used during your opponent's turn, but you still have that ability to normal summon down the mace, and then you can use the mace ability to tribute it off or destroy it to add a memento card from the deck to the hand except itself. So you still got so much more to push through, it's absolutely insane. So, I hope this combo and profile has given you a couple of creative ideas of your own. If you have any questions, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. I do really enjoy the way the mementos work. I love the artwork on them even more, and I can't wait to see what other classical monsters might get adapted into these bone creatures going forward. And you never know, I'm hoping, like I said in the original profile, there's cards that say put them back to the extra deck, that we might get some more memento extra deck monsters in the future as well. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.